Do you really understand compound interest? Whether you're a seasoned investor or have just begun investing, understanding how compound interest works is essential. So let's start at the beginning. What is compound interest? So compound interest is the interest that you earn on the initial amount that you put in, i.e. the principal, and then any other interest that accumulates over time. In other words, it's interest on top of interest. This is in contrast to simple interest, which is calculated only on the principal amount. Now, here is where the magic happens. Compound interest has a snowball effect. As your money earns interest, that interest is added on top of the principal interest, and the next round of interest is calculated on the newer, larger amount. The cycle repeats and repeats, and over time, the growth becomes exponential. So actually, the most significant factor of compound interest is actually time. The longer you can leave your money to compound, the longer it can grow. This is why starting to save and invest early is crucial. So let me illustrate this with an example. There's a simple rule that will help you estimate how long it will take for your money to double with compound interest. It's called the rule of 72. You divide the number 72 with the annual interest rate, and the result is approximately the number of years it will take to double your investment's initial value. So let's now look at a couple of fake life examples to see the power of compound interest in action. So let's compare two investors, Sarah and Tom. Sarah starts investing with £1,000 in a tax advantage account such as a stocks and shares ISA with an average annual rate of return of 7%. She starts at the age of 25 and continues until the age of 35. She invests only for 10 years, then she leaves her money to grow and does nothing else with her accounts. Tom, on the other hand, doesn't start investing until he reaches the age of 35. He also invests £1,000 per year in the same account that gives around 7% of interest per year. He keeps investing until the age of 65, giving him 30 years of active investing. So the results are actually very astounding. Listen to this. Even though Sarah invested for only 10 years, her money was allowed more time to actually compound. And by the time she's 65, her money has actually grown more than the amount Tom has. Her investment has grown significantly more than Tom's has, even though Tom's invested actively for 30 years. So at retirement, Sarah has around £212,000, whereas Tom only has £99,000. Even though he actively deposited more money, his money wasn't able to compound for as long as Sarah's. This example really showcases the power of starting early. So what can you do to harness the power of compound interest? Here are some actionable steps. Start saving and investing as soon as possible. The earlier you start, the more you can feed compound interest its most important meal, which is time. If you start at the age of 18, for example, you have all those additional years in your adulthood for the compound effect to start working its magic. So before we talked about exponential growth, and to really understand exponential growth, you need to know that every single month and year in exponential growth is seriously important. 10 years could be the difference between having a £1 million portfolio and a £2 million portfolio. As the exponential effect works, the rate of doubling becomes shorter and shorter, meaning that at one point you could be doubling your money from 1 million to 2 million at the tail end of compound interest. In other words, the time for your money to double becomes shorter and shorter the longer you let compound interest do its thing. The other thing is you have to be consistent with your contributions. So every time you invest, you buy shares at different prices. We know that the stock market tends to always go up over a long period of time. However, on this journey, there are a lot of setbacks and there are a lot of dips that you can keep buying if you invest consistently. So by regularly investing, you can actually take advantage of inadvertently buying all the bumps and dips along the way. And throughout your journey, as the price of the stock goes up, all those bargains and sales that you gained along the way are really going to be adding on top of the interest to your compound interest, just contributing overall to the compounding effect. The other thing that you should really be doing to help your compounding effect is to make the most of tax advantaged accounts. These include accounts such as your stocks and shares ISA and your pensions. You will seriously thank yourself later if you start investing in a tax advantaged account. This is because when you first start out, your portfolio can be very small and you don't really think about the implications of tax on such a small amount. So as the compounding effect kicks in, your portfolio can start to grow exponentially, and suddenly you worry about the tax implication when it comes to withdrawing for your retirement or just buying something that you really want. Luckily in the UK, we all have a £20,000 per year allowance for our stocks and shares ISA, where we can deposit this much and not worry about paying taxes upon withdrawal. This is one of the most generous tax-free investment allowances in the entire world, and this can really help build your tax-free portfolio relatively quickly, and if you max out your contributions, you can really help accelerate that compounding effect. So other tax advantaged accounts include pensions. Often within these pensions, the government or your employer will give you a nice bonus or a tax relief upon withdrawing, so it is sometimes within your best interest to max out your pensions first and then worry about your stocks and shares ISA. The other thing that's really important to help with that compounding effect is to look for funds with low fees. 1 or 2% here or there doesn't sound like that much, but just like with your investment portfolio, the fees later down the line do start to compound too. You should try to always invest in platforms with low fees and also funds that have low fees. By ensuring that you pay the lowest fees possible, you can make sure that you keep more of your money when it comes to withdrawing for whatever reason later down along your investing journey. ETFs or exchange traded funds are typically very good at providing very low cost fees and have completely revolutionized the investing landscape. If you would like to start your investing journey now, head over to the video description box where I leave a number of different providers that I recommend. These will be affiliate links, so if you sign up, I will also receive a bonus too at no additional cost to you. A very important thing to ensure that the compounding effect works is to always reinvest your earnings to maximize the compounding effect. If you choose to withdraw some of the money from your portfolio, you are essentially pausing the compounding effect. This in the long run can really harm your returns, and in some cases it can set you back a few years. You heard the saying, time is money. Well, money is time too. In the world of compounding, your currency is actually your time, and the longer that you let your money compound, the more that you'll have at the end of it. So in order to maximize the compounding effect, any dividends received from your investments should also be reinvested, and there really shouldn't be any money not invested at any given time. So one of the most fun that I've ever had is playing around with a compound interest calculator such as this. So this calculator or anything like this can show you how much you can expect to have if the compounding effect actually plays through. So in this calculator, you can put your initial investment. So let's leave that at $0, but let's see the power of investing just £100 per month. So if we put into our deposit amount 100 and then press calculate, this is what we can have projected for 40 years. So at the end of 40 years, the future investment value would be £262,000. This basically means you've deposited £48,000 of your own money, and the amount that you've earned on top of that, so the compounding interest amount, will be £214,000. Now, what I really wanted to nail back home, if that is even a term, is what exponential growth is. So in the beginning, you can see from years 1 to 4, the line is actually pretty straight, which means as the years go by, your money increases only very slightly. However, you start to see something after around year 19. You can see there is a curve formed, and essentially the number of years it takes for your money to double becomes shorter and shorter. As you can see, every 10 years is very important. So year 30, we have £85,000 worth of interest. However, in year 40, we have £214,000 worth of interest. That is a huge increase, almost 3 times the increase in just 10 years. You can see that from year 1 to year 10, the increase is only £5,000 of interest. However, we saw from year 30 to year 40, that interest is around £200,000 extra. Even 1 years at the tail end of compound interest is very, very important. As you can see, in year 39, you would have made £196,000 in interest. If you withdrew that money early, you would have missed out on £18,000 of raw interest. And to make this even more interesting, let's change to 50 years and see the difference there. As you can see, the difference between 40 years and 50 years is incredibly high. At the end of 50 years, just by investing £100 per month, you would roughly have an end result of £544,000 £100,000. Now, if you wanted to increase the effect of compound interest, you can actually increase your deposit amount just by increasing it by £100 per month. Let's see the end result. Now, we've actually doubled our lifetime investment, leading us to have a portfolio value of over £1 million in 50 years. Now, it's very important to note that £1 million in 50 years is not going to be anywhere near as worth of £1 million in today's money. In fact, if we account for inflation 2% per year, this money is going to be roughly half of what it's worth today. However, £500,000 still is a world way away from actually the deposit amount of £120,000. Showcasing the ability of compound interest. So actually, the longer that you can keep your money invested, the more you'd gain in compound interest. So make sure to check out some of my other videos, and I will see you in the next video.